Hello, welcome to the Town of Lake Clark Shores hybrid council meeting, October 13th, 2020. I'm getting feedback.
Hold on.
Mayor Valentin Rodriguez. Vice Mayor Paul Shalhoub. President Pro Tem Robert Shalhoub.
Here.
Councilmember Gregory Freebold. Councilmember Albert Pavone. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We're going to have a moment of silence. Our first person we're going to have a moment of silence for is Susan Cruz. She was a former Boynton Beach City Clerk. She passed away September 14th, 2020. There have been 15,530 persons in the state of Florida who've passed away from COVID. In Palm Beach County, we've had nearly 1,500 deaths. And in the United States, we've had way over 200,000. These numbers keep going up every day, so we just have a moment of silence for all the people who are sick and who have passed away. I appreciate that. Thank you, Pastor Stan. Could you please lead us in an invocation? Give us an invocation.
Be my honor. Let us pray. And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and what is pure and blameless for the day of our Lord, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes from our Lord, to the glory and praise of God. This is our heart's cry. Lead us by your Spirit in thy precious and holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Stan. That was a beautiful prayer. Could you just lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag over here?
I can do that, sir. Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic
for which it
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for being our official clergyman for our town and for our police department.
Happy to be, sir. You guys, it's an honor to serve with you.
Thank you. Do I have an approval of the agenda? Seconded by Mr. Freebold. All those in favor?
Aye.
And our consent agenda?
So moved.
Vice Mayor Paul Shalhoub moved, seconded by?
Yes.
Robert Shalhoub. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we have a presentation tonight by the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue District Chief Tracy Adams. And we'll pipe that in. And I'm still getting an echo.
Got it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, is that my cue that I'm up?
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't see you on my screen.
Okay, nope, there we go. I hope I'm not causing the echo because I have the computer up, but the only way I have audio is on my phone. I don't have any audio on the computer, so I apologize if it's me. I'll mute it right back up again when I'm done. Anyway, thank you very much for having me at this virtual meeting. I was at the August 11th meeting, but you guys were so busy, I didn't want to interrupt anything and introduce myself, but I would like to make a formal introduction. to the council and to all of the other community that's out there. My name is District Chief Tracy Adams. I don't know if you all are familiar with Chief Gaffney, but he retired. He served your district for many years, and I have been in this role as District Chief for 3 years. I was originally down in Boca, and I've been moved up to the area, which I'm happy about because I actually live out in Wellington and grew up close to Lake Clark Shores. So I'm very familiar with the
Nice.
area. For those of you that know, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue is pretty big. We have 8 district chiefs. We serve all the way from Jupiter down to Boca, east to Lake Worth, and west to the Glades. So each of us has between 6 and 9 stations. So I have 6 stations and 5 municipalities, Lake Clark Shores being one of them. I've been in this business now for 22 years. November 16th, I start my 23rd year. Love it. Was able to move up all the ranks successfully. Served as a company officer, a captain on an engine, an EMS captain. I've been a battalion chief. Worked as a fire operations officer in the EOC during many emergencies. I'm a graduate of University of Florida, so I'm a big orange and blue fan. My daughter is also a graduate alumni from University of Florida as well. I'm an RN. I've worked at Wellington Hospital and JFK for many years. I'm a fire inspector and a fire instructor. So I am a dual fire rescue family. My husband is a captain with a city of Fort Lauderdale. So we do eat, sleep, and drink anything about fire and emergency services. We have 3 children. All 3 of the children have been cadets with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue and served the community in one facet or another. We're also a lifeguard family. I'm a lifeguard, and my daughter and my son lifeguards as well. That's just a little bit about myself. I wanted to also give you just a very brief update on the last couple months in your community. In September 2020, we ran 20 times in Lake Clark Shores. We had 17 medical calls, 2 motor vehicle accidents, and 1 fire, totaling 20. August, similar, 20 calls, 18 medical, 1 motor vehicle accident, 1 fire-related call. July, 18 calls, and June, 19 calls, all similar. So those are a little bit of statistics, what's going on in your community. I know that overall in Palm Beach County, the mayor has brought us into phase 3, and the schools have opened and restaurants have opened. I just want to assure you that Palm Beach County Fire Rescue is still taking all precautions and taking COVID very seriously. We still are screening all calls. We are still using the most extreme measures of PPE, which is personal protective equipment. We've luckily have not at all got COVID from any specific related call, none of our employees. So that's just great news. So we continue to make those precautions. We have masks in the station, social distancing, and making sure that we keep ourselves safe so we can keep the community safe as well. Other than that, thank you very much for the time. I do plan on attending these meetings as well. I look forward to eventually one day when we're back together and I can come over to the town council chambers and introduce myself in person. Other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chief Adams. Very impressive background, and sounds like everybody in your family saves a lot of lives, and we're really impressed by that, and we welcome you to our area. And when we do have live meetings, we'd love to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Absolutely. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I did a little bit of my research on who is the chairman of the barbecue and all kinds of stuff. So I'm looking forward to being the chairman of the barbecue.
Over there.
And are you related then? Or is Paul your cousin, uncle, son?
Paul is my son.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, very good. Keeping the family like-minded.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're the first father-son council members in a while, right? State of Florida.
That's awesome. Very impressive. Very impressive. Yeah,
Well,
that seems like from what the research I did, it seems like there's a lot of years of service between all of you gentlemen in this council.
There is, and we appreciate that, and we love our town, and we love the fact that you protect us and that we have such a good relationship with the fire rescue. It's very important to us, and I'm just excited that you're on board and you're so friendly and outspoken.
Absolutely.
And that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Mr. Clark has my phone number, has my cell phone number. So please, if you ever have to reach me, call me on my cell phone. It is the best way to reach me. And I mean, of course, you can leave a message on the office, but I definitely extend calling me on the cell phone and with whatever you need. And we're there for it, the community.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next item on our agenda is a quasi-judicial proceeding, which is relates to 1735 Antigua Road variance request. And we're going to have Mr. Scheck, our town attorney, present to us the recommendation of the zoning board. And then we will give our applicant, who I believe is here, present in person, Mr. Shendera, an opportunity to speak, and then we'll move on from there. So, Mr. Clark, would you make the presentation? Mr. Scheck, would you make the presentation, please?
Yes, Mayor. This is, as you stated, a quasi-judicial hearing to consider the application of Kevin Shendera at 1735 Antigua Road for a 9-foot side variance to construct a Carolina carport having a 1-foot setback from the property line. And this is required under section 125-295-2 of the town's code of ordinances. As you know, several years ago, you changed your code to provide that there are 2 hearings regarding applications for a variance, one before the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and the Zoning Board of Adjustment makes a recommendation to you as the town council to make the final decision on whether or not to grant or deny the application for the variance. The Zoning Board of Adjustments met and they deliberated after hearing testimony from Mr. Shendera, and the order that was entered is on the last page of item or tab number 5 in your packet. I'll just briefly summarize it for you. They heard the variance request and they recommended that the town council approve the variance as requested by the applicant to construct an open air Carolina carport having a 1-foot setback from the side property line. That's a 9-foot variance. And they conditioned that approval on the carport remaining open, not being allowed to be enclosed at any time in the future, so that the variance was specifically for a carport with the requirement that the carport remain as a carport and not be enclosed in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Scheck. I appreciate that presentation and the fact that the variance is limited by that specification. Mr. Shendera, we'll give you an opportunity to speak. If you'd like to say something, we can sort of see you. There you are. One second, let's just make sure your microphone is on so we can hear you. Does he just have to speak loud? Okay, just speak loud.
What I'm trying to do with this carport is I'm trying to want to park my boat on the side of the house. And I'm just looking to cover it, have a nice work area on it. I do all my own maintenance. I do all my own work on it, repair it. And if there's 2 openings in my neighbor's yard, and I'm looking to protect it from that because it drops at least 365 days a year. The leaves stain the boat very bad. And he also has a carport on his property. It's just on this side of the fence, so he's putting a carport next to a carport, so it's not next to a house or anything.
Okay.
It is behind my cable end, which is high, 16 foot high, and I have it behind a 6-foot fence.
Okay, thank you so much. We've been able to see pictures and that you submitted, and obviously you've testified in front of our zoning board. As part of our public hearing, I'd like to invite anyone else other than you that would like to say anything. Mr. Clark, do we have anybody on standby?
No hands are raised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before you proceed, because this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, and because Florida law allows for ex parte communications regarding variance applications. If any of you have had any discussions outside of this public hearing with anyone regarding this matter, that needs to be disclosed on the record before you vote. And if you visited the site, that needs to be disclosed prior to voting.
Thank you, Mr. Scheck. Are there any disclosures that need to be made? Okay, okay, I'll recognize Bob Shalhoub.
I discussed this matter with Mr. Clark.
Is that your only disclosure?
Well, I'm following the instructions of Mr. Sheff.
Okay, I will.
Have you talked to Mr. Clark about this? Then I think you need to disclose.
Yes, I will disclose I spoke to Mr. Clark, and also I'll disclose that 2 weeks ago, Dusty Dodge asked me a question about the procedure and whether the variance request would be limited in the future to what the request is tonight. Meaning that, like, if a subsequent owner moves into the house, would they be able to build a room there using that same variance? And I believe my response was it's limited to what the request is tonight and approved.
If you approve it with the condition that it remain open, then, and knowing that variances run with the land, any future owners are allowed to have a carport in that location, but are not allowed to enclose it.
Okay, thank you. So that was my disclosure. Any other disclosures? Any rebuttal? There really doesn't need to be rebuttal. Thank you. Because there was nothing put forward against your position. Any council comments before we vote? Please, Mr. Robert Shalhoub.
What's the vote in the code on the ZBA, Mr. Sheff?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
You
We need your mic on, please, Mr. Shalhoub.
Well, who voted?
Okay, no problem. I didn't see where there was a vote on the ZBA of 4-1, 3-1, 4-5-0.
The vote was 4-1. The chairman voted against the approval.
And the chairman is Mr. Glenn.
Yes.
Well, can you give me a minute?
Yeah.
Thanks. I think that we had a prior application for a setback that came before council before. I believe this was last year. Does anybody recall that? No? And
No, they're still discussing. They'll close before.
there was a request for a 1-foot setback. And I believe the code board suggested a 5-foot setback. And the applicant came to the council and requested a 1-foot. I'm getting a lot of feedback here, folks. With that in mind, I think that Mr. Glenn also voted against it. I think it came before the council with a 4-1. I could be wrong. I wanted to know what's the difference, Mr. Scheck, between the application that we denied and that 1-foot setback was denied last year. What's the difference between this year?
I don't know that there's any difference with the facts of the setback. It was a separate hearing. There are different board members on the board now, and after they heard the testimony, it was their decision to recommend approval of the variance. So the difference is that it was a new hearing for very similar request, and there were new board members who had not heard the first request.
And I think I even made inquiry of you. Has there been variances in the past of 1 foot? And do we know how many variances of 1 foot has taken place recently within the town, Mr. Scheck?
I'm not aware of any recently within the town. In fact, we haven't had a zoning board of adjustment hearing in approximately a year.
Because I think the vice mayor asked you how often 5-foot variances are granted, and Mr. Scheck noted that it is infrequent, but has been allowed due to the shape of the lot. Is there anything peculiar with regard to the shape of this lot?
Not that I am aware of, but that would be a question of the applicant.
Well, the house is a little off, but
Can you speak into the microphone for me, please?
the house is a little twisted on the property. And I mean, if that side is the smaller side, I did want to put it on the other side of the property, which has a larger side property. But to do that, I would have had to move my septic system, which runs through that side. To run a driveway up that side, I would have had to move it, which would be a great cost to do that. So I chose to work down the other side, so I wouldn't have to move the septic system. And also there is a carport on the property line over on 1815 Gregory Road in the front yard that someone parked their truck under. I don't know if that means anything.
Do I understand this will be screened from the street?
It will, the way the house is positioned, it will be back like 30 feet back behind the front of the house. And it will be behind the gable end. And I do have a 6-foot fence in front of the.
Is the 6-foot fence, is it solid?
Yes.
So it'll be screened.
Well, I mean, 6 foot high, that would go with that. Yeah. And then it's behind, it's a solid fence.
Then that's what I mean screened.
Solid fence, and then the gable end right there where it's going to be right next to is 16 foot high.
Okay.
So you basically only see it from the front, behind the fence, and then my neighbor would take a picture of the letter.
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
Oh, the only other person would see would be my neighbor to the east, and she's written approval. The both of them have written approval if they're okay with it.
Is that Dodge? Well, she gave you conditional approval, so long as it's not an eyesore.
I'm going to maintain it just like I do everything.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any other council comments on this request? Paul Shalhoub.
So I don't think the issue that came before the council, Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, or Councilmember Shalhoub, this wasn't the same type of request we denied last year or whatever it was. I think that was supposed to be an enclosed expansion. It wasn't an open temporary carport type situation. Anyone want to elaborate on that?
No, you're correct.
Okay, so apples and oranges essentially, other than the variance request of the fee, right? We're not talking about the same type of request. And if we grant this, Charlie, does it, my understanding of the way that this has been presented, and that you can answer this too, is you're essentially saying it can be taken down and moved, if so be it, and it's got to be open. So if we granted it, could we condition on that it's not a permanent, 100% permanent structure? I think that was the wording used in your application, is that it's not 100% permanent. It can be taken down or moved, and it wouldn't be enclosed. So can we put that condition on it, that he wants, that it can't be 100% permanent, it can be taken down? I don't know what the difference is. I've never built a carport.
It's pretty bad carport. It's kind of similar. It's exactly the one right there at the end of the street, but
Yeah.
meant his variance. And they're high enough to cover the boat. It's engineered. It's rated, for 180 miles an hour in West Palm. I mean, it's not no like lean-to, so it's rated. But it can be taken down and sold and moved and erected somewhere else. So, if I ever did move, I can take my boat. I'd want to take the cover too.
The significant difference, of course, is that this is a metal building. The Carolina carports are metal. It is not a concrete block or a cement building. And you can condition it that the approval is for only this type of a carport.
Okay.
So
And that would run with the land as well.
That's correct. So that someone couldn't then substitute in its place a concrete structure in place of the metal building.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other council comments? Okay, so our conclusion, finding of facts and conclusion of law have to,
Before you do that, you have to close the public hearing and then go into your deliberation regarding the approval or denial of the application.
okay,
And
at this
Mr.
time.
Mayor, there is a hand up to speak on this issue.
Okay, we're gonna go, okay, that means that you will, I guess we'll be able to go back to rebuttal from him. Who, could you recognize the person so I can,
Bernadette Shalhoub,
okay, if you can pipe her in.
she is self-muted. Bernadette, are you there? There we go. Oh,
Maybe she
Can you hear
accidentally,
me?
yes.
Okay. My name is Bernadette Shalhoub, 8429 Westlake Drive. My concern with this is that you're almost creating like a zero lot line. And if the neighbor currently doesn't mind it, what if someone buys that house and does? What if someone buys that house after this neighbor who doesn't mind it being 1 foot close to her property line? What if, what if they come in there and say, I can't stand that being so close to my property line, then what?
Then they don't buy the house. That's usually what happens, Bernadette. They take the house subject to whatever's there. That unfortunately, that's how the law works, is that, well, maybe fortunately it travels with the land. But it's very restricted.
So this is my concern, that if you give a 1 foot variance to this gentleman, and I know that there are certain criteria that you've placed upon him, you're going to have several other people that are going to come and say, well, I have this 9 foot piece of property in my yard that I could do the same thing with. So you're going to end up with multiple yards with zero lot lines in Lake Clark Shores. And in my opinion, that's not who we are. I would hate to think that that's going to set a criteria for people that want to extend the coverage for their cars, or make room for more cars on their property, or whatever the case may be, because there are a lot of us around here who do have that option, and you would end up with a multitude of those type of scenarios.
Okay.
That's my thoughts on it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Shalhoub.
You're welcome.
Do we allow a rebuttal to that comment, or is that just
The applicant has the ability to sum up if he so desires, and then if there's no other comments, you can go close the public hearing and go into your deliberation.
do you have any additional comments, sir? Okay, I appreciate that. So at this time, we will close the quasi judicial proceeding, the public portion of it, and move into any council conclusions, debate, deliberations on this issue. I heard Ms. Shalhoub's comments and I understand them. Fortunately, every single one of these is separate, and they come in front of the zoning board first and then to us. And I think we look at each one of these separately. I have an individual in front of us who did come to this meeting in person and seems to have convinced our zoning board 4-1. And we have a zoning board for a reason. I mean, we've asked them to serve our town, to be the front line on these issues. So just my opinion is I think it's an acceptable request. I'd like to hear from any council members who'd like to give their opinions. We'll recognize Paul Shalhoub.
Thank you. I echo your sentiments as regard to the findings from the zoning board. Additionally, his neighbors who don't have an issue with it. But more importantly, there's already a concrete slab there and it's not going to be enclosed. And what I'm considering is granting this variance request with the conditions that it be a carport. What's the name of it?
It's called Carolina.
Carolina carport. That's metal framed and can be moved and taken down, unlike a concrete block one, if you will, or any other type of, or even a wooden structure, and that it not be enclosed pursuant to the request of not only his application, but his neighbors as well. So that's how I'm considering granting it, is with those conditions.
Do we have any other council comments? So it appears that we have a suggestion by somebody needs, Paul, can you turn it off? Thanks. We have a suggestion by Vice Mayor Paul Shalhoub that we grant this variance with a specific provision that it be an open air Carolina carport as requested in this application, and that it be nothing greater than or different than what was actually requested to be put up. Is that a sufficient amendment to the?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the amendment, or that's the suggestion by Paul Shalhoub. I can't move, I don't believe, under this proceeding.
Yep.
So
I move that amendment be made to his application to limit it to the metal framed Carolina carport that can be taken down and remains open air.
okay, we have a second to that.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Greg Freebold. Any discussion?
Can I ask Mr. Shindera if that works for what he needs?
I don't believe we can at this point because we've closed that portion of the
That's
proceeding.
fine. I just want to know.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
So for clarification, then you're granting a 9-foot variance. The code requires a 10-foot setback. This will allow a 1-foot setback. So it's the granting of a 9-foot setback for a Carolina carport, which must remain open and not be enclosed and cannot be substituted with a frame or concrete block structure.
That is correct. That was the intent of the motion, and I believe it passed 4-1.
Mr. Mayor, it was unclear as to who the fors and who the against were. Can you clarify that, please, for the record?
Yes, it was Mr. Shalhoub. It was Mr. Shalhoub, your speaker. You have to, for the record, it was Bob Shalhoub who voted
Let me tell
nay.
you why I voted against it. I'm glad you got it, but I'm trying to be consistent because I went back and was provided a copy of all of the minutes and the discussions going back. So I just want you to know that in looking at the code, in particular, section 125-69, I just didn't think that your application fit that criteria. I'm glad that you got your variance, but I did not also want to set a precedent. That's what I was concerned with the last time that I did that. But isn't there a Carolina carport down the street? Isn't there one that's next to a concrete wall on Florida Mango? Yeah.
I believe he measured that.
Did he? Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you for being here. This concludes the quasi judicial proceeding. We have no public hearing and we have no unfinished business. Just for the record, I'm going to go into new business part A, and then I'm going to have Paul Shalhoub, who will be vice mayor, step in place of mayor for subsection B and for audience comments and status reports. The motion before us under new business is to select an auditor. There was a committee that was created, and I was a part of that committee, and I guess a description of what the committee did was provided in the council packet. But just to reiterate, we had the gracious work of Gregory Dunham and Linda Stumpf. And they both worked very hard on reviewing the proposals that were sent. And I'll be very frank with you, they had much more experience than I did in understanding how auditors work and the qualifications for them. But believe it or not, at the end of our, we had 2 meetings, and at the end of our deliberation of our second meeting, we came upon the same recommendation, which is in your packet, regarding CRI or Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. And I believe the entire presentation from them was included in our packet. Dan Clark and Emily also participated in the proceedings and were very helpful in helping select an auditor. So if there are any questions, I was on the committee, as you know, I served on it. If you had any questions, anyone's willing to accept the proposal by the committee, I'd have to have a motion from one of you.
Move that we accept.
Second.
Second, moved by Paul Shalhoub, seconded by Robert Shalhoub. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. And our thanks go out to the participants and Dan Clark, particularly having such good connections, getting some really professional help on that issue. I'm going to step aside now, and I'm going to see you after we've elected a president, maybe, for our next meeting, which is in November. Until then, I'm going to turn this meeting over to the Vice Mayor, Paul Shalhoub.
Thank you very much, Val. We're moving on to the next section, our presentation by Richard Pinsky, discussion regarding our legislative agenda coming up for 2021 and our annexation issues.
What do you want me to do, Dan?
Okay, are you ready for me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, we're ready, Richard.
Okay, so thank you very much for allowing me to come before you this evening. Hello to everyone. I was considering coming in person, but in discussions with your town manager, we decided better err on the side of safety. So you have in your packet a few items. The first is basically a calendar, just to put everything in context, so you understand that things are beginning to accelerate in terms of the regular session, the 2021 regular session. It's already really upon us. They already started filing claims bills. So right after the election, the Florida Constitution says 14 days after that election, the legislature must organize for the purpose of swearing in newly elected legislators and organizing and selecting a Senate president who's likely and will be Senator Simpson, unless something happens and the Republicans lose 3 Senate seats, which could happen. Then that may cause a disruption in the Senate president. The Speaker is more confident that Chris Sprowls will be nominated as Speaker for the House. Following that, start committee meetings. The Palm Beach County delegation will start meeting, and of course, local bill filing deadlines similar to last session. And then, of course, session kicks off. 60 days later, we're home, hopefully this time celebrating. Next in the packet is a copy of House Bill 753, which never received a bill hearing last session. And I know many of you traveled to Tallahassee numerous times, not just Palm Beach County Day. You spent many hours speaking to members of the Palm Beach County legislative delegation. And unfortunately, not a single local bill from Palm Beach County was heard. Rick Roth didn't have his bill. Representative Matt Wilhite for the Port of Palm Beach didn't have his bill heard. And then we believed that we were going to get a bill hearing, and based upon certain milestones, metrics, and basically high hurdles that we had to jump through, including surveying the proposed annexation area, and producing, the voluminous materials. We tried this different ways. Nonetheless, the bill was not heard. The next in the packet is a sample of a different approach that we attempted, and that was tacking on to a bill of general nature, not a special act, also known as a local bill. And we toyed and played with the near enclave concept, and but decided that we would try this amendment, which basically just tweaked and amended the current definition of an enclave that said if that one of those borders was a state or county road, in other words, that's a clear delineation, no one's living on that road, and or a water body. So basically saying that you're not cutting a street off. There's a natural boundary that could be used to fulfill the definition of enclave. We went to the chairman of the full committee, and who, for whatever reason, didn't want to have any part of amending that section of the statute. So we did come back, and amidst the COVID pandemic way to have conversations and meet, your town manager and I thought through, and I think we discussed at the last meeting for the presentation, to say that perhaps we should discuss with the county the proposition of getting some land that would become part of a fee simple deed to the town along either the east side of Florida Mango, if we had to cross over to Florida Mango, but should we take the county up on their offer to help us close to fit the current definition, which would just simply end up being a negotiation between the county and the town of Lake Clark Shores. Before I did that, I wanted to make sure that we would not be subject to a legal challenge, and that we were on solid ground before we would recommend to the council that we start meeting with the county. So I had one of our attorneys in my firm, one of the land use attorneys, do the research and put together a memo for you, which you have before you as the last item in this agenda backup. And that is clearly, and if you see at the bottom of page 2, the last paragraph, I think it should be highlighted, or one version I had highlighted, that clearly points out that if we did do that, we would be leaving the town council open to the exposure of a challenge, which may or may not be successful, but just leaving the town open to that exposure, I don't think is a prudent way to proceed. So while it sounded good and it was worth pursuing, I can't recommend that we engage in any conversations with the county at this point. Instead, second time, I could do many football analogies of last season and this season, but it is a new season, and I do believe we can be successful. I would be changing some of the strategy. I think Representative David Silvers is anxious. We'd be more than willing, and once again would step up and fight on our behalf. We are going to have new chairman, new speaker. The deck gets reshuffled. There will be probably that same staff person, much to the chagrin of our town manager. But I also would suggest that we have Senator Berman, who's our senator, file the bill, even though local bills are not traditionally filed in the Senate. They let the House handle that, but that doesn't say that they can't. And since there's no limit on Senate bills, I also suggest that we have a Senate bill filed this time around. And so the Senate bill will probably have an easier time to get heard quickly and can move through. So it's sort of an insurance strategy, but I do feel as though things will be different this session. We've completed all the all the tasks and all the, like I said, all the hurdles that they've asked us to do. And it is in the Constitution. The town of Lake Clark Shores has every right. There's no reason to believe that the Palm Beach County delegation would not once again vote unanimously to introduce the bill. And I know there's many members of the delegation that were not happy, including Rick Roth, chairman of the delegation, that the bill was not heard. So I think the strategy last session was fine. It was good. It was sound. It's the way it's supposed to be done. So just the fact that we had a bad season or we lost the championship or lost the game, that's no reason to think our strategy was flawed. We should add to it and do some things a little differently, but I think it's still going to require a local bill and to move forward. So while we don't need a vote or direction tonight, I would like to see some consensus from the town that I can start reaching out to folks like Representative Silver, like Senator Berman, and start laying the groundwork for when November rolls around that we'll be ready. And with that, Mr. Vice Chair, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Richard. Really appreciate all that you continue to do for us and have done for us over the years, especially on these issues. I do have a couple questions. What are your thoughts on not only going at it from the House of Representatives side and the Senate side, but also the statewide, going back to the original thing we tried to do a few years ago with changing the law for the state?
Great question. I think as a fallback, because the House members only have 6 bill slots that they're able to utilize, and usually in an election year like this, I'm not trying to suggest that members of the legislature, when they run for re-election or election, that they overly promise, but very often they do make commitments and they do discuss issues during the campaign season, and they come to Tallahassee ready to take some of those ideas. And so I would perhaps say let's try to handicap our chances. So once November rolls around, we're going to know who those chairmen are going to be, who the speaker is going to select. And so right away, we'll be able to start long before we advertise and long before we go to the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation. I think we'll have some idea. And then if that becomes a viable or likely alternative, then I would agree with you. Yes, we should try that as well.
And any of the councilmen have a question or comments to Mr. Pinsky?
Not at this time.
He's the best coach we have.
Mr. Vice Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky, who's going to be the chair of the delegation this year?
It actually may be, I'm trying to think who the vice chair is right now. Whoever the vice chair is, I think it may be David Silvers, maybe.
Awesome.
Because it was Matt Wilhite, then it was Rick Roth, and I think they used to go Senate House, but they sort of stopped that tradition, but they do go Republican, Democrat. So if you give me a minute, I can go to the Palm Beach County.
Wasn't Matt the vice chair last year?
Who?
Matt
was the chair. Then right at the start of the session, which they'll do again this time, he handed the gavel to Rick Roth.
Right.
Rick took over, so it should go to a Democrat, and something tells me David Silvers is the vice chair, which would be even more awesome. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to check real quick. But in the meantime, Mr. Vice Mayor, if there's no other comments, there were 2 other points, and I don't know if you want to discuss it now, but I just put it on there to say what a legislative request might be as far as member project. I don't know what the funding is going to be for water projects, and the prospect, there's a $2 billion shortfall. So the prospect of water projects are not good. However, we do have some unique features of Lake Clark Shores, and that is the number of access to the water bodies, stormwater runoff, and also what should be gathering more attention this session will be sea level rise. So as you spend the next several weeks, you may want to start thinking about what other projects or what else we can do to be protecting our properties in Lake Clark Shores and our mitigation against perhaps sea level rise. If any stormwater drains have to be adjusted. And I know we're still interested in septic to sewer. So standing out of the crowd and being unique is certainly going to be the catchword for the coming session. But I just wanted to highlight that. In the meantime, yes, David Silvers is the vice chair, and which means come December, when they probably have the election, maybe January, whenever they meet. Again, everything's in a COVID pandemic protocol. So, but when they do meet, David Silvers, Representative Silvers, is likely to get the gavel, and then we'll have our bill sponsor, also chairman of the delegation, and to add more impetus to his hopeful chest pounding to get this done.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Mr. Clark? So, Richard, you're looking for some direction from us in so much as what are our positions on you reaching out to not only our senator, but our representative and getting the ball rolling on our local bill?
Correct.
I personally would like to see that, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let it be written, let it be done.
I don't think you're going to have any objections from any of us up here.
Have our blessings.
Please work your magic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll continue to watch and listen in for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. All right, we're on to audience comments now. Dan, do we have any written questions in or any hands raised? All right. Do you have any comments you'd like to make since you're our lone in-person audience member? All right, our pleasure. All right, moving on to status reports.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Yes.
William Steele just raised his hand.
All right, Mr. Steele, the floor is yours.
Mr. Steele, you're self-muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was just wondering if they could clarify what the bill is. What is that local bill we're trying to pass as a town?
Dan, you want to take that? Or Charlie?
The local bill is an attempt to annex 102 homes that sit in the middle of town that are in unincorporated Palm Beach County.
They receive our services on a year-round basis.
Daily basis.
Yes.
So they would become part of the town, or what does that mean?
Right.
Yes.
So right now they don't pay any town taxes, but they get all of our services. And so we're trying to write the equities there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other hands raised or
no
questions? All right, we're going to move on to status reports. Oh, yes.
Charles Damsel has his hand raised.
Okay. Mr. Damsel, the floor is yours.
I had hoped I would hear at this meeting some more. I'm still a little confused about what's going on with the garbage cans. And I was hoping it would just come up and we wouldn't have to ask about it, but I didn't hear anything about that. We're getting new garbage cans, or what's going on with that?
Yes. Mr. Clark, would you be so kind?
We've signed a contract with Waste Management to provide garbage services. That contract included a clause that we had to change trash cans within the town to allow them to collect automatically with the trucks that have the arm that just pick the cans up. So Waste Management had a delay in ordering those cans, but they have been ordered. We're expecting them to be distributed around the 3rd or 4th of November. Everyone will start out with a 96-gallon trash can, and after a period of trial, if that can is too big for them, then we have a few options for changing out from a 96-gallon can to a smaller can.
But those
Does
will
that help?
appear in front of our house at some point.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
You're welcome. And you have to note that in your current waste receptacles, if you will, trash cans will not be allowed to do regular trash pickup, but you can use them for bulk or vegetation debris.
Okay, but can we can stick them in a big bag and have them haul them off with the bulk waste on a Monday or something like that?
Yes.
Is he talking about his garbage cans putting in a bag?
Big bag.
Yeah,
Yes.
get rid of the garbage can somehow. I don't know.
You could probably write trash on it, throw away, and on bulk day, and they might pick it up and throw it away, I would assume, but I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Mr. Vice Mayor, we have one more. Adrian Sanchez.
Miss Sanchez, the floor is yours. Adrian, you there? Is she there, Dan?
The hand is raised, but and she was unmuted a moment ago, but now it says she's self-muted, so I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay, can you hear me? I apologize, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to ask the question, but my question is, I was wondering, what is the status of the lot on the corner of Westlake and Forest Hill Boulevard?
No, that's a fine question to ask. Right now, we're still in the process of doing our due diligence before any decisions have been or will be made or put before the town council. And Dan can kind of give a bit more of an update, but we hired a company to give us advice on what needs to be done from a procedural standpoint before the council can even address the issue of adding in the option to have a limited professional space occupy that property.
Okay, so that is the consideration to make it, to possibly have a professional space there versus residential?
It won't be versus. My understanding of the options or the option that will be presented to the council in the future, once the due diligence is performed, is that it remains single family residential, or we add the option of it becoming limited professional space while at the same time still being single family residential. Meaning, let's say that change happens. A person come and buy it as a single family, and a person could come and buy it as a limited professional space. But that would be it. It won't be excluding single family residential. That will always be on the zoning. It's just a matter of whether or not we add another opportunity, and that would be for limited professional space to occupy the land.
And is there any estimated time as to when that will be decided?
I don't know if we have a specific time frame, but I don't believe it'll happen this year.
Okay. My only concern is being that that's one of the main arteries into our town, to have some type of professional building there. What would that do to our, traffic flow in and out of the town?
Sure.
Yes.
I think that'll be certainly something up for discussion once the time comes. But one thing I pointed out at the last meeting is, at my firm, even before COVID, and we're in a large office, maybe I had 5 people that weren't employees come in. So you're gonna have limited parking space. If it's limited professional, I don't know what traffic you're talking about, but you're gonna have a limited amount of parking spaces. There would be a limited amount of building footprint, so meaning a limited amount of people could actually fit in there. So I don't think even if the zoning changes, you're going to be looking at some crazy influx of traffic. But again, that'll be certainly something I think we're all going to be wanting to know and consider when the time comes.
Okay. Will the residents have any say in how that is decided or not?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're always
All
going
right.
to have input from the residents.
Okay. I apologize. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting. I just wanted to ask that question, and I'll keep my ear peeled to see how that goes.
Yeah, Art, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for calling in.
Thank you. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, a couple more.
All right.
Mr. Wes Cook,
Mr. Cook, the floor is yours.
Mr. Cook?
Is he
Mr. Cook, are you
self-muted?
there? No, his microphone actually shows that it's live.
Is there anyone other than Mr. Cook?
Yes, Mr. Steele again.
Let's go to Mr. Steele and we'll come back to Mr. Cook.
I just wanted to clarify the decision. At this point in time, does the council need the town's vote, or can they vote without the town's approval on the property at Westlake and Forest Hill?
Do you mean, did the residents need to come in and cast a vote on what's done with that piece of property?
Meaning, at this point, does the council even need the input of the town to vote?
Oh, you mean the town management, Dan Clark and staff?
Correct.
Well, the town council can't even take the issue up for multiple reasons, one of which due diligence is not done. The recommendation by the town manager has not been issued, and it's not even on the agenda. And I don't foresee it being on the agenda in a voting fashion in the immediate future. So yes, there's still more work that needs to be done before this issue comes before the town council.
Right, but if those things are completed and it goes before the town council, can the town council vote on it without the town's feedback?
I imagine so, but that typically doesn't happen here.
Yeah, the state law requires public input on any matter that's being considered by the town council. So before they vote, any resident or concerned citizen has the ability to voice their concerns, their objections, their approval, their sentiments regarding the matter. So the vote will not take place without public input from the residents.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Or the town's input as well, meaning the town management.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Cook, are you back? Is he back, Dan?
It says now that he's muted by the organizer, but I can't unmute him.
It also shows that he's offline.
Oh, he's offline? Okay, well, if he pops back in, please let me know. Okay, any more hands raised, questions, comments?
No.
Okay, let's go on to status reports. We'll go with the chief or his stand-in Sal.
Am I on?
You're on.
We submitted the statistics for last month to Mr. Clark. So he has them. I don't know if everybody got a copy of those or not, and how he distributes those. Some things I'd like to bring attention to if we could. Being out in the wee hours, I noticed there's a lot of walkers and joggers out there between 5 and 7 a.m. Just asking if they could maybe put out in the newsletter on our website somewhere they can wear some sort of light colored or reflective clothing, because they are out all over in the middle. We just don't want to be the ones to hit them because we're also out there. But for their own safety. And we recently partnered with a property management company at 1400 block on Forest Hill Boulevard. We're having some signage placed for trespassing enforcement and stuff by where the methadone clinic is, the 1400 block there. So that's all I got. Everything else is good.
Thank you. Mr. Freebold, do you have any questions or comments?
I have nothing at this time.
Mr. Pavone or Mr. Shalhoub?
I think, what I was thinking about Mr. Steele, I think what he was trying to get across, and does the town council have to wait for this quote unquote due diligence? If there was a motion made hypothetically, I want to keep the zoning the way it is. I don't want to change it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. I think that's where he was coming from. That I could be wrong, but I think that's basically what he's saying. And I think, Mr. Steele, because they were considering changing the zoning to add commercial.
Mr. Shalhoub, may I? We're talking about the status reports for the police department.
Oh, I thought I was talking about council comments.
No, we're still on status reports.
Oh.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to just get us refocused on status reports.
Stay with us. Got it. Thanks.
No problem. Mr. Pavone, any questions or comments? All right, Charlie, we're on to you.
My report's included in your packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding any of the items in that report.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
Done.
All right. Thank you for your continued hard work, Charlie. Mr. Clark.
My report's in my packet, in your packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any for me.
Mr. Pavone?
No.
Mr. Shalhoub?
Yes, I did. Dan,
Is it me? Am I muted? I'm unmuted. Beautiful. Last meeting, I have feedback here. Last meeting, I was trying to suggest before I got cut off, if you took during the budget for 2020 budget, our general revenue was anticipated at $3.4 million. Anticipated revenue for the 21 budget is $3 million. That's a swing of in excess of $400,000. And while we were talking about our refocusing, establishing our priority, there are certain projects, there are certain opportunities that we've made available to our residents, our neighbors throughout the year that has to be cut back. And I just wanted to make absolutely certain that everybody appreciates the fact that we're doing the best we can with a shortfall of close to over $400,000. And how do you anticipate addressing this?
So what we did is we cut back on what we believe are non-essential, non-mission critical activities. And events is one of those where we don't have the money to fund them like we have in the past. So we cut out a lot of our events. Parks repair and park improvements will continue, but we're not looking at any major capital improvements to any of the park system. Those expenditures have been cut way back. We transferred some of our typical road work to the infrastructure surtax. It fits within the guidelines of that ordinance. But we also cut back on a lot of the road work that we traditionally do throughout the course of the year. And that's where those three areas were where most of our cuts came from.
Because I know that people have stopped me when I'm walking around town going, did you cancel Halloween this year? Well, we don't cancel Halloween, but we just redirected our energies where the town is not going to be doing the bigger and better Halloween event. A lot of people don't appreciate the fact that that's a lot of our manpower, and that costs money for our personnel to put this project on for our neighbors. Thank you, Dan.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Mr. Clark, have you seen a rise in activity at Town Hall Park here with the pavilion and the playground?
Yes, there's absolutely more activity here. The basketball teams are back thick.
Okay. That's all.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to council comments. We'll start with you, Mr. Pavone. You are muted.
There we go. We're learning this. It's the first time we're all up here with this mute and unmute. No comments. November 3rd, important date. Get out and vote. But besides that, I'll be seeing everybody next month. Hopefully, right? God willing.
I'll be here. Mr. Freeball.
Make it count.
And President Pro Tem Shalhoub.
A neighbor asked me, is the town hall going to be open for voting? And I said, absolutely. So I don't know where that neighbor heard that town council, the town hall was closed. Town hall's closed for everything except voting come November 3rd. Correct, Mr. Clark?
Correct.
Now, getting back to my understanding of where I thought Mr. Steele was going, I think the appreciation for the rezoning, Mr. Steele, if you're still listening, also has to come into play with changing our comprehensive plan up in Tallahassee. So that takes some jumping through some serious responsibilities. So what we're trying to do is appreciate the right way to go about doing it to see if we can maximize the opportunities for the town. I also want everybody to know that I had staff, in particular our engineer and Mr. Clark, see if they could reach out to Lake Worth Drainage District. 6,900 piece of property abuts the Lake Worth Drainage L7 canal. Is that correct, Mr. Clark?
Yes.
So what I was thinking about doing is let's see if we can use that piece of property and segue into the head of the lake. And I thought that would appeal to, I thought that would be very appealing. Well, we received a response from Lake Worth Drainage District because we had to culvert the L7 canal, and they would not be willing to do that at this time. And if we fill everything into the front part of that property all the way down the canal going east, there would be an issue of taking property away from the homeowner, and because of his access. So that become very problematic in doing that. So I just want I want the neighbors to know that I reached out to see if we could clean up that area, eliminate where the debris and the vegetation routinely collect, and allow that to be a nice segue into an additional access to the head of the lake. But no can do. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Thank you, Mr. Jackson, our engineer, for reaching out and following up on my request. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody, for who attended today on our virtual meeting, and thank you very much for all the comments and questions and inquiry. I truly appreciate it. And again, I think you might be right as far as what Mr. Steele was aiming at. Certainly, the council can make a lot of motions without due diligence if we so please, but I think everybody on this dais, or dais, if you will, wants to make informed decisions before we make our proposed motion. So that's what we're doing when it comes to the 6,900 Westlake property, as well as many other issues that we vote on and discuss up here. Dan, can you elaborate what we're doing for the October 16th and 23rd lake cleanup? It's going to be a little bit different this year.
It's going to be a lot different this year in that we're going to try and do the cleanup virtually, which means we would like you, if you could, if you're interested in cleaning up an area of the lake, please call us. We'll drop off a lake cleaning kit, which is a bucket and some bags and some tongs, grabbers, and you can go do your cleanup and either leave those bags of debris for the trash pickup or bring them back to the boat ramp and throw them in the dumpster. We'll have a dumpster out there for you. At the end of a week's time, we're going to ask you to, whatever you have left in your cleanup kit, to leave it back on your front porch and we'll come by and pick it up.
Fantastic. We usually have 2 of these every year, and I think it's important that we maintain it. So I really appreciate the work you and the staff put into making this event something we can all still do and participate even despite the pandemic. So if you're out there and you have a boat or you know someone with a boat on the water and you want to participate in the lake cleanup, it's October 16th through the 23rd. So hopefully we can get out there in good force and clean up our lake as best we can this year so we can roll into 2021 a little bit better. That's all I have to talk about. Again, thank you all very much. I'll take a motion.
So,
all right. Motion by Mr. Freebold, second by.
we're up here and we're separated by these plexiglass. I think, I don't know whether that was told to everybody.
Yeah, we're following the social distancing guidelines.
Here it is.
Didn't mention it, but yeah, we got these dividers up. So, all right.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes.
Were you going to talk about the bridge?
The
Graffiti?
Seminole Bridge?
The
Oh,
graffiti.
yes. Thank you very much. I did. Thank you. So we had some graffiti on our bridge, one of our bridges, and Mike Bredewig pointed out and noticed it. And he volunteered after contacting the town to go out and get some paint and paint over all of the graffiti that was put on the bridge over the course of many years. And so he called the town. He was the only person to do so, really appreciative of that. And we advised him that, look, give us the receipts for what you paid for and go, by all means, go out there and clean up the graffiti. So Mr. Bredewig, thank you very much. Truly appreciate your service to this town, your volunteering to make that happen, and your desire to continue to see Lake Clark Shores be as beautiful as it can be for many years to come. Truly appreciate your dedication to this town. So thank you very much. And now we can adjourn. All in favor?
Yeah, I lost power. I'm black, I'm dark.
All right.
You see me? You see me?
We can hear you. You're still.
It's all black, it's all dark.